Call of Duty World War II Review, a welcome reminder of heroes and sacrifice. Call of Duty World War II takes us back the beginning. It reminds us why we liked the series and why it became a $15 billion juggernaut. The military shooter puts you in the shoes of individual infantry soldiers, the ordinary people who learn what it means to become a hero without celebrating war or forgetting about all of its horrors. It helps us remember the sacrifices of those who came before us and why Call of Duty has sold more than 250 million units sold since 2003. Sledgehammer Games undertook the mission of returning Call of Duty to the Second World War 3 years ago, a timely move considering last year's disappointing performance for the science fiction shooter Call of Duty Infinite Warfare. Sledgehammer's team of 300 people studied the war that claimed 65 million lives. The team traveled to Europe and felt what it was like to freeze during the winter nights in France, Belgium, and Germany. They consulted with historians to get the history of the U.S. Army's 1st Infantry Division, and they pooled their storytelling DNA to tell the story of a single squad within the fighting first. Above, multiplayer combat in Call of Duty World War II. The result is a game that stays true to the mission. It honors the memory of ordinary people who became heroes under extraordinarily difficult conditions, as those veterans are no longer around to talk about it. It tells the story of men and women, from female French resistance leaders to African American officers and Jewish soldiers, whose stories were left out of many histories. It shows the horror of combat, from brutal knife fights to death by flamethrowers. It entertains video game players with boots-on-the-ground combat. And while it encourages you to be a hero, you are not a lone wolf. The story shows that a hero is somebody who does something for others, like a friend, a squad, or the larger cause of the war. This story has some story spoilers. Check out our reviews vault for past game reviews. And here's our other Call of Duty coverage. I attended an Activision review event and played through the 12-mission single-player campaign, which follows the squad of the Big Red One from D-Day to the Rhine. I also played the multiplayer, from the objective-oriented war mode to the hilarious gridiron fantasy. And I got a taste of the Nazi Zombies co-op mode. Activision has packed several games into one package, delivering a value that fans have come to expect each year. I'm on my second run-through single-player, now on the hardened difficulty setting, or one notch above regular. And I am thoroughly enjoying myself, as I find that each battle has been well conceived with a good beginning and ending. A story that focuses on a single squad above Private Robert Sussman in Call of Duty World War II. Call of Duty World War II tells the personal story of soldiers forming a tight bond, while also delivering a panoramic view of a war where the cause was good, but the fighting was brutal. When you land on the beach, you don't even have a gun. Captain Turner tells you to remember your training and that your job is to pick up an explosive tube, dubbed a Bangalore torpedo, rush to the barbed wire, and blow a breach in it for others to move up the beach. This landing reinforces the idea that your first duty is to your fellow soldiers and your own squad. You aren't shooting at all. Your job is to make sure that the other soldiers get through the wire to assault the bunkers, and eventually you have to save the life of a comrade who first saves you. The squad fights through a dozen horrific battles in the single-player campaign. Each one is like its own nightmare. You crawl up Omaha Beach through withering fire. You drive a jeep through enemy lines. You face an artillery ambush that shatters the trees above you. You learn to stick with your comrades and make the ultimate sacrifices for them. During the battles, you are called upon to do heroic actions, like dragging a fallen soldier to safety, capturing enemies instead of shooting them, or escorting a little girl away from the fighting. Such acts of humanity take place against the backdrop of a war that was brutal in almost every way, from the collateral damage on civilians to the mistrust it bred among the conquered populations. One of the stars, Ronald Red Daniels, played by Josh Duhamel, forms a bond with Jewish Private Robert Sussman. They promise to protect each other's backs, and in multiple missions they are called to live up that promise. Daniel saves Zussman after he has been stabbed, guards him with a sniper rifle as Zussman plants explosives, and searches for Zussman after he has been taken captive. Among the many stories, this one focuses on what blood brothers will do for each other. Daniels is haunted by his past relationship with his own brother, and he knows it only takes a moment to determine if